here we go. Wait for that to go live. So, hey, so today we're going to be unboxing the Adafruit out-of-box, and this is the 5th edition. So I've had the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and they were all very interesting projects. I built really cool things with my fiance, like the self-driving car, or not the self-driving car, the little robot car that worked off a small Arduino piece. We also built a speaker that we made play the new Jay-Z album exclusively, which was really cool. And so doing out-of-box 5, I'm really excited about, because this one is the first box in the series that works off a Raspberry Pi. So this should be really interesting to try something a little bit different. So I'm just going to check to make sure the stream's working. Looks great. Awesome. Cool. So let's go ahead and get started with the instructions. So hopefully you like the setup here. I've got the camera and I'll hold up things as I'm working and building them together, but also on the left-hand side here, or on your side, you can see over there, you'll be able to see all of the instructions that I'm going through, so you'll see the hardware as I put it together. So, and I'll try to have my comments up on my phone, so that way if anybody does comment, I can respond. Alrighty. So first and foremost, every time you unbox an Adafruit out-of-box, you always get the instructions here that shows just kind of a list of things that are in the box. But also, if you just go to the URL, like I have open here in the browser, this will have the same kind of information about like what's in the box. And it also normally has some download codes for you to get a certain percentage off. Here, I know that they're partnering with this other really awesome group called Pimoroni. And they make a bunch of really cool adapters or hats for the Raspberry Pi. So we've got those. So once you take off that cover and you take off those two slide-ins, you've got the rest of the box here with this really awesome tissue paper that's all custom, that has really cool designs in it if you ever get a chance to look at the box and the tissue paper. And then it always has a really cool collection of like stickers and stuff. So here we've got the Raspberry Pi Foundation sticker, a really awesome sticker that says my other computer costs $35. Very cool, shout outs there. And then, since we're going to be making a gaming machine out of a Raspberry Pi, it's got a really cool pin here, a really awesome gaming pin. Alrighty. So, let's make sure here. Alright, good. Okay, so let's start making our way through the list. So the first part of the kit components that we have here is the Raspberry Pi Zero. Now, what we have right here, we'll go ahead and take the Raspberry Pi Zero out of its case. Awesome computer all-in-one programming board, everything you need, all wrapped up in one. Looks like it's got micro HDMI, 2 USBs, one for power in, one for data, the camera port, then the GPIO pins, and an SD card slot, micro SD. So everything that I'm used to on one of these. I've used the larger Raspberry Pis, but this is my first time getting my hands on one of the Raspberry Pi Zero, so very excited to program that today. Just getting my build space together here right now. Awesome, so we've got that. Next up, we've got the Adafruit Joy Bonnet. I know that the Joy Bonnet is actually going to be the gaming controller that we're going to be using. So that's what that looks like. Very cool. Nice tactile buttons here for building. Very nice. Looking forward to getting those together. After that, we've got the Raspberry Pi Zero case, provided by Adafruit. If you don't know anything about the Adaboxes, they're really great because they're projects that are all in one. Everything that you need to do your project, they send you with. So here's that case for that'll house our Raspberry Pi Zero. And then the HDMI cable, just a little mini HDMI cable here, nothing too special there. Although very nice that it's provided and you don't have to go get it yourself. And then the hammer headers. So this is absolutely no soldering. All the Adafruit projects do not require any soldering, although I think it'd be really nice for them to do a soldering project so I can kind of get good at soldering. So this is the GPIO Hammerhead solderless kit provided by our friends at Pimoroni. There's all the kit in there. I'll keep that all together. Looks like it's got some small parts. Then some power supply stuff. If there's one thing that I get a lot with these projects is power supplies. So here's our power supply to power our Raspberry Pi project. And then we've got our 8 gig SD card provided by Adafruit, pre-installed with noobs for Raspberry Pi. Right there, set up to go. Obviously, we'll be taking it out of the adapter and putting it in with the micro SD. And then we've got the micro SD card reader keychain, which these are all really cute. I think this is my second one of these that I have. Just a little fun keychain piece. When you take it out, it's got USB on one side and micro SD on the other side. Really awesome if you don't have a computer that has an SD card slot. I still have my old MacBook, so thankfully I have an SD card slot on the side, so I probably won't be using that to burn any copies of the operating system today. A couple extra headers here. Looks like we'll probably use that at some point for our project. And then this is the micro HDMI or mini HDMI to regular sized HDMI adapter. Very nice that they threw that in there. Awesome. Again, there's the box. I just showed you it in real life. They give you 25% off of the 5-inch color TFT display. I actually have the TFT display already. I do not have it here. I have it back in my office, but it has an HDMI port. So I already have that piece. So definitely in a later video, maybe when I'm doing one of my Kerbal programs, I'll switch over to live stream, so I'll show you all of the pieces together with the small display as well as the controller working. Today, if I get the controller working, I'll be hooking it up to my TV, which is a 55-inch Vizio, so it'll be a little bit different experience, but very cool. I think another piece I forgot to mention that is in here is they also give you the mini USB to regular size USB adapter as well. So lots of adapters. You will be adaptered out. Always like to shake the box to make sure I don't forget anything inside. Looks like we're good there. All right, and so we're going to go ahead and get started. So again, talked a little bit about the inserts already. It also came with a copy of Raspberry Pi, Raspberry Pi's magazine, the Magpie. Good issue, actually. I've already flipped through half of it. It's got a bunch of really fun projects that I want to get started on. But first, we build this box. All right, so I'll just read a little bit as we go. So with this box, you'll be able to create a tiny gaming machine that will fit in your pocket. Take it out, attach it to a power in your TV, and play all your favorite classic games. Like all Adaboxes, there's no soldering required, and we have partnered with our pals at Pimoroni to include the neat hammer headers. With this project, you should be gaming in no time. As usual, our team of engineers have come up with some really unique projects for those who want to take it to the next level. Excited to see what that entails. Normally, it's been something that you have to 3D print, like a case. And since I don't have access to a 3D printer, I normally don't get to do that step. But the last Adafruit box, the Adabox 04, you got to build a speaker and you were able to decorate that. So we actually had a lot of fun with that. And I can show that at the end of the stream. Awesome. So yeah, step one, installing the hammerheads. Ooh, I'm excited. I get to open the hammerhead packaging here. Let's see if I've got any tools I can use for opening. I might have to go and get my little toolbox. All right. Just breaking open this packaging. We've got a couple of things in here. So a bunch of acrylic plastic pieces that are going to go into that build. More of the headers. And then there's some, they're not nylon screws, but they look like nylon screws. I'm going to place those on the table so I don't lose those. Actually, I have a little tray from iFixit. My bit and screwdriver piece here actually comes with a tray on top that I can use to keep all the screws together. And I think this will only have 2 screws, so shouldn't be making too much of a mess here. Alrighty. They're awesome hammer headers. Hammer headers allow you to fit the male header to your Pi Zero with absolutely no soldering. Nifty. Here you'll learn how to fit them using the jig that comes with the kit. It's important that hammer on a sturdy, stable, well-supported surface like a worktop or solid wood table, although not your expensive dining table. The jig comes with 3 pieces and has 2 nylon bolts. It does say they're nylon bolts. Okay. Yes, they are for nylon. They are for going into plastic. All right. Snap apart the acrylic pieces and peel off the protective film, although this isn't absolutely necessary. Please watch the video below before installing your hammer headers. Ooh. I wasn't watching. Alright, let's start by just getting everything together here. Let me get rid of the protective film. I wonder if it's gonna, if when it says hammer on a sturdy table, if it literally means to hammer. This will be interesting. It should be known that Lady Ada from Adafruit normally does an unboxing video. She's already done an unboxing video of this project, and during that she makes the project and shows you how it's programmed and stuff. And I have not watched it yet, so doing this completely off the instructions here. All right, so I've got the pieces together. I've got my Raspberry Pi Zero. Watch it one more time. All right, nylon screws go in through the bottom. Looks like we've got a completely symmetrical piece of acrylic plastic, so it doesn't really matter which way I do it. So I'm going to take my nylon screws and put them through. There we go. Okay. Then we place the Raspberry Pi Zero down. It looks like with the USBs facing down, or the opposite side of the nylon screws, like that. I can do that. Oh. It is hammering. We can do that. I wonder how hard you have to hammer. This is interesting. Okay, let's see. Oh, I see. So the way that this works is it has, let's see if I can get this on the camera. Really close up here. I don't think you might just be able to make out the details here. But if you look, right where the header meets the Pi 0, right there, these headers are different than a normal set of headers that you might get. Like, for example, this pair of headers. If you look where the plastic and the copper meet on a regular set of headers, you'll notice that the metal is basically just a cylinder, or not a cylinder, but like a rod that goes in the plastic for the header that keeps all of the headers separated. And if you look at the way that this kit does it, there actually is a little bit of the metal, the copper, between the Raspberry Pi Zero, then there's copper, then there's plastic, and then there's the header again. There's actually a little bit of spacing there. It's a little bit wider. So that way, when you hit it on this jig, what's going to happen is they're going to snap together because you're going to push it through. So I see what they're doing here. So I am going to go hammer this off camera really quick. Just to get it all together. Looks great. Gosh, that's the first. So we just finished hammering on the top of this acrylic jig, hammering down the headers into the GPIO connection pieces. And it looks great. Good contact. And it's definitely not going anywhere. It's definitely sealed in there. There's a couple of pieces in the middle that could use a little bit more force. Might go get it one more hit, just so we're even here. Alrighty, they're looking good. We're all in, we're connected. Yeah, we did all these steps. We hammered. Do not hammer your headers too hard. Stop hammering as soon as the headers are firmly in place. Yeah, we did those things. Okay, now it wants us to go ahead and burn to the SD card. So it looks like we'll be revisiting that plastic jig later with the Raspberry Pi Zero onto our image that we need to put on our SD card. Alrighty. Placing my SD card into the computer. And next we want to burn our custom image onto the SD card. The image will be a custom version of Retropie, which I've used before. Really awesome project for being able to emulate games. And some free open source games, wink wink. they're going to start you with some open source games before you go over to the emulation sites and download some of the real games. So click the button below to start downloading it. So now we're downloading our custom image. While the image downloads, go ahead and download Etcher, a free piece of software that will easily allow you to flash the image to your SD card. Every single time I've done this, they recommend a different program for flashing your SD card with a Raspberry Pi operating system. Let's go ahead and get this one. Why not? All right. You can take some time to do a flash. While you wait, you can install the case onto your Raspberry Pi Zero. Snap the Pi Zero to the bottom of the case. Okay, so now it looks like we're taking everything off of this jig. So we've got our headers installed through the GPIO port pins. And we're going to put those in our case. It's pretty simple here. Snap the Pi into the case, then put the top on. Oh. Let's see how we get in here. Oh, there we go. Looks like it only can go in one way. Get everything perfectly lined up here. So it looks like you want to get the board in there. Oops, stuck. Looks like you want to put the board in so that the GPIO pins in the back go in first, because there's a little shelf that keeps everything low and from rattling, or locked in and from rattling. Boom. Yep, there's a little plastic piece right here that you want to seat the Raspberry Pi underneath. And then once we do that, it looks like we can put the plastic top over our Raspberry Pi here, because as long as we keep the GPIO pins open, we can snap on our hat, which is our controller. So I'll just make sure I put that on correctly. Very nice. Got all that snapped together nicely. And we'll go ahead and put on our hat. And it slides on very nicely there. Look at that. That is a thing of beauty. Very nice. Alrighty. Once you have that, install the joy bonnet over it. Once you get the flash complete, screen in Etcher, go ahead and remove the SD card and reader and install them into your Pi Zero. Okay, so let's go ahead and do those next steps. So go to my downloads. Don't think you're getting much of this side of the process, but nothing really interesting to see here. If you haven't ever flashed a SD card with a Raspberry Pi operating system, nothing too interesting to see there. Just basically writing on top of an SD card something that is a bootable image, and then that bootable image is what your Raspberry Pi will use as its operating system when it first powers on. Alrighty, we're going to select image. Of course, their image is a file type that cannot be extracted by default for free by default from the operating system. You've got to go download another program to open up the image. Yes, 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 just select all, that's fine. Going and finding that downloaded file, unarchiving it. It's downloading as a image. I have in this bottom corner terminal, because in the past when I've worked in Raspberry Pi, I SSH into the Raspberry Pi and do any kind of the work that I need to do from that terminal command. We'll see if we'll be doing that here. It might just have us burn the image and then turn the thing on. So I might be removing that display and putting the TV up. Still extracting. Looks like it's done. Let's go see if that image is anywhere to be found on my desktop. Looks like there it is. We're going to flash it over. It says that step might take a while. So let's see in the instructions if we actually, what the next step would be in this process. Yeah, the next step, first install the micro SD card into the Raspberry Pi, then plug in the HDMI cable into your TV. And then plug it into power, and then boot up straight to Raspberry Pi. So, not too many other steps after this one. So I know that one of these is power and one of these is data. I'm not sure if they're interchangeable. Let me see. But I can read from the silk screening on the board which one is USB and which one is power. So the one farthest outside of the case is power. And we can power that through a computer. I'm thinking that maybe we get this so that the Raspberry Pi shows all of the game on our laptop, so we can watch what we're doing from the laptop rather than having to switch to a TV. Know a little bit about how to do that. Show Raspberry Pi screen from terminal. I know this means we're going to have to SSH into it. This normally means us having to set up a VNC. And it needs to be set up for Wi-Fi. Alrighty. I know once we get this set up, it'd burn with this image instead of working the other way, I know we should have just built it as a Raspberry Pi without this image, that we could go straight into the config tool for Raspberry Pi and do all these things that we need to do for VNCing. But I think because of the image, it's going to boot straight into the emulator. So let's see where we get after we're done writing the program here to our SD card. I'll start working on getting everything set up to the monitor. So pretty cool. They already go ahead and give you the HDMI cord, which interesting enough that they give you an adapter here, even though the cord they give you already is the micro SD or mini HDMI to regular size HDMI, but then they still give you the adapter. I guess if you wanted to use your own larger HDMI cable, if you had a longer one. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and rotate this. I'm going to go ahead and get this HDMI port in use. I'm just going to do it to the side port. We're not going to be able to go too far with it, but that's okay. I'll just be in frame so I can just show you the screen working. And we're at 60% burnt for our game. I'm going to take a quick drink break. We're not going to worry about the SSHing today. I'll make that a separate video. Today we'll be fine just playing the game here. Let's see what their upgrade is. Ooh, a haunted portrait. With the help, a creepy portrait. We can make a awesome Halloween portrait using the Raspberry Pi. I thought it'd be a fun gaming upgrade, but they just want you to make a screen into a frame, which is still really cool. Okay, so they still do the same thing if you're setting it up. Turning on the screen. Downloading the images. Very cool. Sweet. Box 005. So this is the stage we're at right now. We're at 80% burnt. Pull over my little chair over here. And that's what our final device looks like right now. So overall, I really like this Adabox so far a lot. Looks like the space in between the two pieces we could use another piece of plastic here to keep it from moving, because as you're going to be playing, and inevitably you're going to be smashing these buttons for a lot of those games that you're going to emulate, you're going to press down on it and make the board bend from the header, which you don't want to do too often, but maybe there's something I can put in, like a piece of felt, to put in a spacer there so you won't crush it. Just like maybe super glue a piece of felt there in between the acrylic case that houses the Raspberry Pi Zero and the hat here. Also looks like my button's a little bit bent. I'll have to play with that too. I like how it's got the kind of old school controller configuration. It's got start, select, and then it's got the analog pad here, and then some inputs. Very cool. All right, almost done. 24 seconds to go for our burn. Also looks like it has a player select at top. It's got a 1 and 2. I guess you can set those inputs to be whatever you want. So I'm gonna go ahead and I think I'm gonna power this from my laptop today instead of using their fun adapter that they give you. So I'm gonna go grab a mini USB cable for that. So earlier I said I'd show off my previous project that my fiance and I worked on. This is a speaker that we created from the last project. It says Wavy on the side of it. And we painted the box together and did these really cool designs. Actually, I think she did all the designing and painting. She did a cool job. And then it's got the speaker at top. And then if you open it, remember how to open it. There it goes. Inside you'll see how the speaker is affixed to the top of the box with some nylon screws going through the cardboard. And then inside we've hidden the remote so that way we don't lose it from all the other pieces. But there is the small feather, and then also in there is a breadboard that hooks up the wiring for the feather to the speaker, and then a LiPo battery to make it so it's wireless, so that way wherever we are, we can just have the speaker going. And then you use the remote to switch the volume and play the tracks. And the project allows it so that the feather works via Wi-Fi, so that you can have your project connect to internet radio stations or any other kind of streaming service that you want to do for audio, or you can have it read the audio files off of the SD card, which is what we have it doing. It's just playing. This box only plays the new Jay-Z album. And at the time when we first made it, it was a really big deal because the Jay-Z album wasn't officially out anywhere except for Tidal. And so this was kind of like our Tidal hacked box that we could carry around and surprise people with the album. So I'm going to plug in the power for our Raspberry Pi here. I just have a little USB cable. Oh, make sure this is the right size, actually. Should be. Yes. That'll be good for powering it. And then the HDMI cable is behind me and ready. And I've got this ready to go. 77%. It's validating our burn, which is fine. So just finishing up here on the project. I'm going to go ahead and set the correct input on the TV. And we're going to do HDMI side. Obviously, no signal yet. We've got nothing to display just yet. Oh, and it's unmounting, and we're done. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and take out our SD card and our micro SD card that has the image. And we're going to place it inside of our Raspberry Pi. And now we'll hook it all together. We'll put the power going to just power it through my laptop's USB port into the USB port the farthest away from the middle, or the one on the outside. All right, and that's powering it up. And then while we're powering it up, we're gonna plug it in real quick to the display. Ooh, just barely gonna have enough light. I have to move the computer closer to the TV. I'm gonna unpower the Raspberry Pi so I make sure we don't miss any cool startup screens. If only you could get power from the HDMI port. Got a snug fit inside of this plastic case for the HDMI. It's totally practical. Alright, everything's plugged in. It looks like I got as many dongles on it as a new MacBook Pro. So what you saw a second ago there was it running through the BIOS basically of the system, and then it pulled up Retropie, and that's the image. That's the operating system that's running off the Raspberry Pi Zero for it to play these retro games. I'm gonna try hitting some buttons here. Look like we've got. Oh, there we go. A job is running from DHCP-CD on all interfaces. I'm going to go ahead and close out the rest of these window captures, so that way we can feature what we've built a little bit more front and center. There we go. Center me real quick. Alright, so there we go. We've got Emulation Station going. Alright, sweet! Game Boy Color, Nintendo, the original NES system. Retropie, which I've never seen that as an option. Oh, that's a configuration tool. So that way you can set up probably Wi-Fi. I know that one of the ways that you can load ROMs onto here from the internet is through Wi-Fi. But we'll obviously want to set up the network configuration at some point back to Game Boy. So let's try NES and see if there's anything in here yet. Oh, it says 4 games available. And I know that all of these are going to be games that are open source currently, but obviously you can go and get some. Oh, and there we go. So these are games that are obviously already been configured for the hat. But one of the things that you would do is you would go into that configuration tool inside of Retropie, and it would actually configure the controller for each one of your games. But most of the NES games you're going to be able to very easily use this controller. I'm going to go ahead and turn the volume up so you can hear that audio here. So I'm not sure where my guy is. Oh, I see. I'm the red box. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Alright. I don't know how you play this game, but I'm a little box. I don't think I'm supposed to slam into those guys. Well, I probably should try to get that key. Oops. Oh, yeah. There you go. Get the key. Okay, this is fun. Pressing start pauses the game. And now how would you exit the game? you know. May have to exit the game by restarting. Oh, there we go. Looks like if you press 2 buttons at the same time, you can get into the settings of this particular game, which actually looks like it has an online mode. I'm gonna quit it. That'll take me back out to my Retropie emulator. Oop, I think I launched it again. When I'm getting to this menu, I'm just hitting the select button and the X button at the same time. And I'm using the A button on the pad here. So it looks like I can hit B to go back. And A to select. Yep, so we've got audio configuration through our HDMI port, Bluetooth configuration if we wanted to obviously use a Bluetooth device like a controller. So if you have a Bluetooth controller, you can use that with your Raspberry Pi, as long as your Raspberry Pi. I'm not sure about the Zero with Bluetooth. Obviously, I have to look that up. You've got a configuration editor, which looks like you can configure lots of settings. There's themes that you can download for your emulation station. File manager. Get back to the original Raspberry config, so that way you can set a password for your Raspberry Pi that isn't just the default password, as well as selecting the boot options, selecting the overclock, allowing for SSH, and things like that. Some other really cool features, NetPlay, show your IP address, which is really important if you need to be SSHing, you're going to need that IP address, and also setting up Wi-Fi, which we won't do right now. Hope I accidentally hit the button to set up the Wi-Fi, didn't I? Let's see. Yep, I did. We're going to go ahead and exit that. We are not going to set up the Wi-Fi. And the great thing is if you get stuck, it's easy to reboot. You just unplug the power and plug it back in. So I'm just going to check out a few more of the systems here to see if there's any other games that you can use with the Retropie out of the box from that download. And then obviously later on today I'll go on and download some cool ROMs so I can get a couple of different games going on this machine. And then what I'll probably do as a build on a separate video stream is I'll take our Retropie emulator button controller that we have now here, and I might hook it up to that HDMI display that I have back at the office. I can bring that home, and maybe we turn the box that housed all of this stuff for Adafruit 05, and we turn that into the thing that holds our display, because it's literally just a display with 4 holes that we can mount it using other nylon screws that we have from previous boxes, and we can make basically a little portable gaming rig all in one machine. So yeah, this is the Adafruit 5 Adafruit box Adabox 005 project, and it's got some really cool games on it. Let's see if there's anything inside of Game Boy or Game Boy Color. They've already limited it to Game Boy and Game Boy Color. I know that for Emulation Station and Retropie, there's also MAME games, which are the games that you would play at like an old school arcade, like the big arcade box systems. They'll have those games that you can download as an emulator here. You can also get the emulators for N64 and PlayStation and things like that. Obviously, those are a little bit more taxing on the processor. This box is already getting really hot running this. So I'm assuming that running an N64 game on here is probably not something that they recommend you do. So yeah, so I'll close out the video just by opening up one more game. We'll try this NES Snake game. And then we'll close out the stream. So thanks for watching. I normally do streams on Kerbal Space Program, and then every once in a while when I get a box like this Adafruit box, I like to do a stream here and there of me building something with it. So thanks for watching. Appreciate it.